I raised my son's hand and he wasn't moving. He sat on the floor and I started screaming. Shouting at God. Okay, it's like you're not hearing me. It was terrible. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Parenting on the Go. If you are just seeing my video for the first time, my name is Dr. Chinyere DC and you're welcome. So I've posted some story time about my motherhood journey on my channel and a lot of people loved it. People have been asking me, oh, you promised to do a lot of story time. Why haven't you posted any story? So in today's video, I'm going to be telling you guys how I almost lost my son 3 times, right from when he was in my womb to the first 2 weeks of life. Yeah, so guys, I'm going to go ahead and tell you exactly what happened. The first time I almost lost my son was when I was 7 months pregnant, 7 and 8 months pregnant. So I was going to work. Where I work is actually far from where I live. So on this particular day, my sister-in-law called. She was in Nigeria and she said she was coming to the house to come and see us. And because of some few complications I've been having with my pregnancy, I've been taking a lot of excuses at work. So my boss actually felt I was taking advantage of her leniency. So that particular day, I told her that I won't be able to come to work because my sister-in-law is going to be in town, and that's like the first time I'm seeing her after I got married. So she said no, that that's not an excuse, that I must come to work. And at this time, my hospital was on strike. It's not just my hospital, the entire doctors were on strike, but because I was an intern, I had to be at work. So because I already told her I won't be able to come and she insisted I must come, I had to go to work that day. So the night before, because I usually go very early in the morning, the night before I had a terrible dream about something bad happening on the way because I was going to take a public transport. I started feeling terrible. I started feeling somehow, and in the morning I told my husband that the way I'm feeling, I don't think I should go to work. Like, whatever wants to happen, let it happen. I'm not going anywhere. My husband said no, that your boss is a very nice person. I don't want you to have any problem with her. You must go. When we got to the park, I sat in the bus. I was actually crying. I said, I'm not going, that I feel something terrible is going to happen. He stood there and prayed with me, and we prayed, and he said nothing is going to happen, that I should just be praying and all. We set on the journey. We're going, and like one town, the town before where I was actually going to, our car ran into the bush. Our car ran into the bush. We had a terrible accident, and here is the shocking part of it. I started bleeding. God, I was scared. Nothing happened to me. Someone actually got injured. Just felt it was the prayer that we prayed, but I was bleeding and I was scared. I started crying. So I quickly took another bus to the hospital where I work and called my boss. They called the gynecologist because they were on strike. They really couldn't do anything for me because the hospital was locked. The gynecologist came, just did a few tests, asked me some questions, how I'm feeling, gave me a drug to stop the bleeding. I had to go back home. Told me that I should give him the contact of my gynecologist here in Benin City. So I gave him the gynecologist number. He spoke to my doctor. He explained everything that is happening and told him what he wants him to do for me and the tests that he wants me to run, and then told me that I should call my husband. So I called my husband and he came. He was actually panicking. he came and took me back home. When we got home, went straight to the hospital. The doctors checked me. We did all the tests that my gynecologist has requested, and the next day we went back to get the results. And after everything, they told me that my son is fine. No, I didn't know it was a boy. That my child is fine and healthy and everything, that I'm okay. Gave me some drugs, and that was it. So fast forward to the second time that my son almost died, was when I just had my son. And if you have been following my motherhood journey, you know I've done CS twice now. My 2 kids are both CSs. The second was an elective CS. I actually went to the hospital to get my CS done and have my baby. So after I had my baby, of course I was anesthetized and I was taken to the ward. I slept off. When I woke up, I discovered that my son wasn't in his cot. When I asked, they said he was sick. The nurses came and found out that his body, his hands and his feet had turned blue. He wasn't breathing well, so they had to rush him to the hospital. I was so broken because I hadn't even looked at his face properly. I didn't even know what was going on. So because of that, I had to stand up. Like, you know, you're supposed to like chill the next day before you try standing up after CS and everything. I tried standing up that night because I just couldn't believe that something had not happened to my son. I was actually scared. Are these people trying to lie to me or something? So, and when I got to the ICU, they were just, my husband and the nurses were now explaining to me that this is what happened, that when they took my son from the court to the ICU, when they got to the ICU, they discovered that my son wasn't breathing at all, that he stopped breathing, but it was just God that he started breathing again. I was so scared, I was so worried, you know. So that was the second time that he almost died. Guys, this thing I'm telling you was a tough battle for me. I'm going to do that story on a separate video. It was too long. Like it was God. I just had to, you know, rush it so I can tell you guys what happened the third time. So this one is another one. If you want me to do that video, comment down below and that will be the next video you see. So let's move to the third time that my son almost died. So when I finally stood up and everything, I go and see my son, I pray with him, I talk to him, I call his name, I comb his hair, I kiss him. In fact, he wasn't responding and everything. He was on oxygen, he was on drip and everything. His body was swollen, he was so lean, everything. They hadn't been able to diagnose what exactly was wrong with him. That was the worst part of it. So we're just there burning money, placing him on oxygen and everything. So I had to pray. My faith was activated. I started praying. I started speaking in tongues. I started quoting scriptures that I didn't even know I knew. I was quoting scriptures. Everyone thought I was a pastor's wife. Everyone thought I was a pastor myself, something. I was just lay on my bed and I'm speaking in tongues. There was this night, this is the third time that my son almost left. There was this night, I just had my bath, I prayed, I read my Bible, I prayed and I slept. In my sleep, whether it's a trance or it's a dream, I don't know what to call it, a nurse came to my window. She was so aggressive. She looked at me and she was like, "What are you doing sleeping there?" This was exactly how the dream was. It was like somebody was talking to me in real life, like, "What are you doing lying down there when your son is dying?" And immediately I woke up. It was dark. This was 2 a.m. in the morning. And I left my son at about 12 a.m. So it was really dark. I stood up. I was like, what is going on? There was nobody. Everybody was sleeping. And then I immediately rushed to the ICU where my son was. And I discovered that the doctor and the nurses were touching him. So actually something was going on. So when I got there, I was like, what's going on? They said, they're trying to do this, they're trying to do that. I said, okay, please, can you excuse me? I need to see my son. And the nurse was like, madam, please calm down. I said, no, I want to see my son. Please step aside. So she got angry, she left. The doctor went to the other room to do something. I don't know what he was doing. And then I looked at my son. When I looked at him, I discovered that one part of his body was black and the other part of his body was not dark but yellow, not yellow, but there was difference. Like one part of his body was black, one part of his body was yellow. So I called the nurse. I said, please come and look at my son. There's something not right about this boy. What were you people actually doing with him? He said they were taking blood. What blood are you taking? Since I gave birth to my son, this is the second week. He hasn't eaten. He's always on drip. They take his blood every minute. I'm like, okay, what blood are you people taking? She's like, and I said, but look at him. There's something wrong with this boy. Something is off. She said that's how he is. And I said, no, please take him out of the lights. I want to see him. He said, no, she now said it's the lights because he was on phototherapy, he was under lights. That it is the lights that is actually making his body look like that. I said, no. I said, okay, bring him out of the light. I demand that you bring this boy out of the light right now. He brought him out of the light. He was still looking the same. One part was black, one part was different. And then I raised my son's hand and he wasn't moving. Hey, my head was open, like my head was open. I was like, what is going on here? You were here with the doctor just now. You didn't notice anything about this boy? And I said, well, I'm not going to say anything to you, but I'm going to step out now. I'll go to my room. By the time I come back, I want to meet my son well, like breathing and well. She was looking at me, stormed out of the ICU ward, and immediately I stepped out. There's this cold that just dropped from my head to my feet. I couldn't move. I stood there for a while and then I started moving. But when I was moving, I didn't even know what was happening to me. It was like I was mad. I didn't go to my room again. I just went straight to, there's this corner I usually pray. There's this dark staircase where I usually pray. I just went there. I just sat on the floor and I started screaming. I wasn't crying. I was shouting. Initially, I wasn't crying, but I was just shouting. I was just calling God. I was just screaming God's name, like screaming, at the top of your voice. There was nothing I didn't say to God that night. I'm sure he'll be thinking, this girl, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? I reminded God how I pay my tithe. I remembered him how I've been serving him diligently. I remembered him how I've dedicated this boy to him. I remembered all the promises that he has promised me. I was shouting. It's like I was shouting at my father. I was shouting at God. Okay, it's like you're not hearing me. It was terrible. At the end of the day, everybody came and then they stood afar. I noticed that I wasn't seeing because I didn't know what was happening. I was almost running mad. But I noticed that there were people standing afar and just looking at me. And then I screamed, I prayed, I shouted, I talked for over an hour, sitting on the floor. In fact, my clothes, I don't even know if I was wearing clothes again and everything. I just kept telling God that I'm not going home without this boy. It's not going to happen. And I started talking and talking. After a while, my voice was just fading. I wasn't hearing myself again. I think I sat there and I slept off on the floor. And then when I stood up, I just went straight to my room. I boiled water, 2 jars of water. I boiled it very hot. I took it to the bathroom. I took my bath and I went straight to my bed and slept. I didn't bother going to check if he was alive or not or anything. I just slept. And the next morning, in the morning, I just went, that faith was there that he was okay. I just went straight to his bed, smiling with my comb because he had this very long coily hair. With my comb, I went to comb his hair. I wasn't going to check if he was alive. I just went there and everybody just looked at me like, Madam, what church do you attend? What do you do? what is going on, your confidence, your faith, your everything, the way you've been behaving since you brought. I told them, I said, I am not happy that I'm here. People who give birth, they go home after giving birth, but I have been here. This is the 3rd week or 2nd week I have been here. No food, no water, no eat, because my breast was flowing, so and she didn't want the breast milk wasting. He wasn't taking breast milk, so nobody comes to, they don't allow people come and check on you and everything, except a particular time, 3 hours a day and everything. I wasn't getting the care that I needed, so I'm not happy that I'm here. So I can't just stay here and just be relaxed like this is my house. This is not my house. I want my son to get well so I can get out of this place. So guys, don't forget, if you want me to tell you the story of how my son's journey started and how he was finally healed and everything, comment below. I love you guys. Keep watching. Don't forget to subscribe and be a part of my family. I love you